because business can have sharp elbows.
And so my one concern is you brought all these people in who like to move fast, kind of disregard rules and regulations often. It's sort of a feature of how they operate, and they take some pride in it. And now they're in a world of rules. I guess convincing people not to be jihadis isn't as easy as selling rice.
Welcome to the Crypto Swamp Creatures, the show you never knew you needed and still don't want anyways. I'm Christopher Alexander, your blockchain and advocacy communications expert.
And I'm Justin Wallin, your guide through the often murky world of politics and polling.
Every week, we dive into the intersection of crypto, policy, and politics without taking sides. We're here to give you the straight, data-driven analysis that influences the decisions of those who want to win or want to be elected.
Think of it as a late 80s newscast, but with a twist. We bring you the serious stuff, but with a dash of sardonic wit and just a hint of irreverence.
So whether you're a crypto enthusiast, a policy wonk, or just someone who appreciates a data-driven approach, this is your place.
We bring you both sides, weigh the impact on crypto, and then we share what we use for show prep every week on our Medium.
So remember, no one is as smart as someone who agrees with you, and now get ready to enter the no swamp zone.
Welcome to the Crypto Swamp Creatures. Our big question of the hour, Justin, is with the latest political appointments from President Trump, specifically David Sachs. Does crypto continue to, as they love to say, go to the moon? We hit 103, the all-time high, probably driven a lot by some of these announcements. But let's kind of dig in. We're going to go one by one, so look for the other segments. This will be the first, where we look at some of these appointees and other pro-crypto people in government. So let's start with David Sachs. What are your thoughts on Sachs and his role as AI and crypto czar?
Well, I mean, he is a Silicon Valley guy. He is he's got deep roots in the same space that Musk has, right? He was part of the, as you mentioned before we started, the PayPal mafia. There's some interesting nuance there between he and Musk. It's interesting that they still work together well because business can have sharp elbows. But I think that also, even though there's some challenges in their professional relationship, the fact they work together bodes well. I think that he's someone that can have a conflict and still find common ground, and that's huge. He is also a colorful character. He has a podcast. He, even from his days at Stanford, editing the Stanford Chipmunk or whatever it was, the conservative paper down there, he had and has a habit of saying things that make the news. He said things about sexual behavior, about gay behavior specifically, that have gotten him in the crosshairs. He hasn't shied away from that. He has, as they say, leaned into that. And that is going to make him interesting. I'm very interested to see if he continues his podcast, because that will be a tool of interaction and negotiation and bullying a little bit, forgive the term, but that's what these things are, right? I think he, one way or another, he's going to be very interesting. Secondarily, he's very effective. So this is not some crackpot showing up to just break things. He is an effective player.
I do, having kind of been part of a technocracy, the technocracy. I will say, and Reagan found this out when he tried the Price Commission, I can't remember the name of it, but this entity that was supposed to shut down, find waste in government. It's a laudable idea. There is, of course, an entire government accountability office whose job it is to do that. I do accept the fact that they could maybe do a better job. Maybe they've been a bit partisan, and maybe they've never met a program they actually disliked. You could maybe say to them, but with this Doge or with this AI crypto czar as he is. And by the way, I love that they combine the two together. Makes all the sense in the world. They're very similar. The challenges around infrastructure and energy are identical for them. Creating an ecosystem they can work in is great. But government isn't like business. And it's often completely counterintuitive. And so my one concern is you brought all these people in who like to move fast, kind of disregard rules and regulations often. It's sort of a feature of how they operate, and they take some pride in it. And now they're in a world of rules. And I think you're going to see some that do better than others. And I am a little bit concerned about that because, a very famous example from what I used to do, they brought in this woman, I forget her name now, but she was going to lead the Bush administration's kind of counter radical Islamic programs or Islamic radicalization programs. And her big deal was that she basically sold Uncle Ben's rice all over the world. Like, she sold rice to people who already had rice and convinced them that buying it and boiling it in a bag was better than what they already had. So she kind of literally sold snow to Eskimos. And she was an abject failure. And to this day, well, not to this day, a lot of us have moved on, but folks who were around when there was a little kind of sarcastic comment that people made, which is, I guess convincing people not to be jihadis isn't as easy as selling rice. So that is my one concern is these people don't understand government. They don't understand the power of a highly motivated bureaucrat to not do anything. And that's going to be, I think, where we'll see some challenge and see how he does.
Completely agreed. And the tech has historically, moving fast and breaking things mean that they defer the costs of legal, right? And eventually those costs catch up to them. The difference is they're actually wielding the arm of legality, which is quite strict and has remarkable protections for those who are working within its wheelhouse. So it's very easy to say that I'm going to make things better because government is awful. And there's a lot of good reason for that, right? Anyone who's interacted with a process will often find it extraordinarily difficult. When they actually interact with the human being at the end of the process, usually that human being is really trying to help, right? They're really trying to get you from A to B to the best to their degree. But it's very easy to and in many cases very well deserved to look at these components of government and say it can be done much better, faster, cheaper. But doing that in practicality is very, very difficult. And let's not forget, again, regulation. I mean, there's all of these laws that are created by executive action, created by regulations that, it's a labyrinth. It is not easy to get through. The number of committees that are created within and across government entities just to keep up with awareness of these regulations and laws is myriad and mind-boggling. So good luck.
Yeah. And I will say, so Sachs is in one of these czar roles, which means that his authorities are, I guess, arguably limited. Right. He can propose. I think he can build task force. He can, synchronize, coordinate, and deconflict, as was drilled into my head as an IO planner. And so that may help him in some ways. He has to shove everybody into the room, and then they have to, work out all the regulatory components. I think that's probably, practically speaking, what's going to happen in his case. So it'll be really interesting. But what he's going to do, I think, is amazing. I would love. We're seeing a lot of cooperation now between the AI and Bitcoin industry. And by cooperation, I really mean AI data centers. Like, they're so desperate, they're buying up Bitcoin mines and converting them. But, everyone's crying their way to the bank. It's good for everyone, these acquisitions. But his ability to promote industry and bring that together is going to be huge. And I presume he's going to be spending a lot of time with various high-performance computing friendly parts of the government to figure out, what can they do. And it probably starts with, ironically, not deregulation, but some actual regulation, since we had 4 years of the U.S. government basically refusing to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to keep in mind that, ultimately he's not a big tech guy, right? So he's not the CEO of one of the big tech companies. He is an investor, an early round investor. He likes to grow things from scratch, build them to 1, build them to 100, and move on. That entrepreneurial spirit is exactly what's needed in this space. So it doesn't. It needs to also have the white hair of somebody who's experienced with large organizations and driving them to success, because that is a totally different set of skills. But his set of skills are critical, and I think they're clearly well honed and proven.
Yeah, if he picks up the phone and says, "You guys need to talk," and here's the long range strategic thing, to paraphrase a former president, I think he could be immensely effective. Those czar positions are always weird. But, you do basically walk in and say, hey, look, the boss wants this. And I think I told you when I was in Iraq, I was pretty low ranking first time. And I would go to some colonel and say, this needs to be done. And then the guy would look at me and blow me off. And I already knew I was going to get out and I didn't care. And so I used to say, sir, this is coming from the commander. Like, what rank do you want me to come over here and tell you to do it if you're not going to work with me? Because I'll find that and we can just skip it. How's that? And that was remarkably effective.
Yeah. There are workarounds.
Because it's like, look, you're going to tell me no, and then I'm going to tell the boss, and the boss is going to call his boss. Like, why are we doing this? You're going to end up doing it. Like, do you want me to buy you some time? Like, what do you want me to do? But, like, I can't go back and say you're not going to do it, because then everyone's just going to yell at me, and they're going to yell at you. Like, let's just stop. So I used to love doing that, and it would make him so mad. Because I'm like, we both know that, like, if you were at the Pentagon, you would get coffee right now. So let's not pretend like you're like a high-ranking, important person, because you're not. I mean, I'm not. Like, sir. But it's those little things like I'm talking about that I just, with these people that are coming from the private sector, they have to get used to. I mean, a classic thing I know you and I've talked about in Washington, D.C., if you tell someone this is really important, let's get going, their thought is, I'll start that first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't move at the speed that the private sector does, except in a few exceptional areas. If it's hostage rescue, nobody's goes home for the day. But your average government bureaucrat doesn't work a lot of hours, and they work 9 to 5, and that's what they do.
And in fairness, the flip side of that coin is, bureaucrats' time is much like budgetary freedom, right? You look at what America spends and think we should spend a lot less. Well, look at what we spend most of our money with. Right? You pay interest payments, you're paying Social Security, paying defense. What of that are you going to cut? It's kind of like bureaucrats' time, right? They have very specific amounts of time that are encumbered regulatory-wise and legally that they have to focus on. Those things have to be done. So you have to recognize that and convince people to unencumber portions of their time.
Unburden what has been before. Maybe that's right. On to something. Yeah, it's a real challenge, and people don't understand that's a dual-edged sword. Time, like they don't start till tomorrow when it's important. They also will stymie your program for 2 consecutive years. They're fine. They're not going anywhere. They're doing, I think, 30 for the federal, 20 for the military, and they're retiring. So I'll deny every request for 2 consecutive years until I get transferred out, and you can't fire me. So those are the sorts of things that I'm sure that they've heard about, but they've never witnessed. And until you've watched someone, like, for example, someone I know, you know him as well, his leave was denied for 2 consecutive years by someone who would push it into use or lose. So because you're at the Pentagon, because when the new supervisor came in, then this guy would then be on vacation, and it would lower the productivity of the person being rated after him. 2 consecutive years, he denied every single request to essentially go on vacation in the Army, as part of a strategy to make himself look better. Like
human beings behaving at their best.
Yeah, in the ingenious ways that bureaucrats in the United States government. I mean, if we could apply that to something like space travel, I think we'd probably be living on the sun right now. So
it's just directed ingenuity.
Yeah. If we could harness the brain power and apply it to anything else other than not doing things or pushing things through that you weren't supposed to push through, I can't even imagine. The human potential. It's amazing.
Well, we have another person to speak about next, so we will return.
We do, and just to close, again, if you're a fan of crypto, this is huge. There's never been an AI crypto czar. Certainly the word crypto never appeared. There's been some high-tech types, but this is another indication of just how serious the administration is about cryptocurrencies. So if you own crypto, there really couldn't be better news.
And that's all for this week on the Crypto Swamp Creatures.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the intersection of crypto, politics, and policy.
Remember, the data doesn't lie, and neither do we. Well, not about anything important anyways.
Until next time, stay informed, stay skeptical, stay out of the swamp.